Thank you, Mr Speaker. On the 5th of August, Australia lost Judith Durham. On behalf of the government, I extend my deepest sympathies to her family and loved ones. Few people made their voice heard quite like Judith Durham. For a time, hers was the best-known Australian voice in the world. You could fill a speech with the descriptions that were given of her voice alone. The purest voice in popular music, powerful and bell-like, a clear, warm clarion call. Judith was a classically trained singer and pianist and gained her associate in music in classical piano at the Melbourne University Conservatorium, with her first professional engagement in the arts playing piano for a ballet school. After she left school, Judith met Athol Guy. Athol played acoustic bass and also sang in a trio called The Seekers, and invited her that very night to come and join him and the two guitarists, my friend Keith Potker and Bruce Woodley, to sing acoustic four-part harmony folk and gospel at a Melbourne coffee lounge called Treble Clef. And with that, the carnival had begun. Some bands set out with a plan, but as Judith put it in her own words, the Seekers simply set off on an adventure with no idea we would stay in England and become pop stars. In 1965, they won the NME Award for Best New Group. Think about that, 1965, winning the NME for Best New Group, beating a couple of lesser-known outfits that were eligible at the time, called the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. They hit number one in the US in 1967 with Georgie Girl. When they signed off, their farewell concert was broadcast on the BBC and watched by more than 10 million people. Their Best Of album stayed in the British charts for more than 2 years, and on she went. She sang through the decades, even performing a cameo in a Silverchair song. She performed with her husband Ron Edgeworth, and after Ron died from motor neurone disease in 1994, Judith became patron of the Motor Neurone Disease Association of Australia. It was one of the many charities she put her energy into supporting. Judith's work showcased Australian stories to the world in her own way. For people that choose careers as musicians, there's often a range of barriers, and for women, there can be even more. The extraordinary determination and talent of Judith Durham places her in that set of iconic, outstanding musicians. Many of us grew up singing the songs of the Seekers, like Morningtown Ride, when we were children. It was one of the few vinyl singles that I remember being in my home. They were then sang to our children, beautiful melodies that have stood the test of time. May Judith's musical family and her loved ones take some comfort knowing that people around the world are listening to the music she made and will keep listening to it, still feeling the joy of it. This treasured music will stay with us, and for Judith, we are forever grateful.
And I give the call to the Manager of Opposition Business.
I'm very pleased on behalf of the Liberal National Coalition to join in this tribute to and acknowledgement of Judith Durham, an outstanding Australian, and I do want to acknowledge the serendipitous fact that the Leader of the House is also the Minister for the Arts, and so therefore we can appropriately acknowledge outstanding and iconic Australians like Judith Durham here in our national parliament. Judith Durham was a strong, accomplished Australian woman who made a huge global impact at a time of considerable social change and of growing Australian self-confidence. Together with the other members of the Seekers, Athol Guy, Bruce Woodley, Keith Potker, she achieved an unprecedented level of global sales success for an Australian musician. The outpouring of popularity and of national pride that the success of the Seekers triggered is powerfully evidenced by the fact that their 12 March 1967 performance at the My Music Bowl in Melbourne was attended by over 200,000 people, reportedly close to 10% of all people living in Melbourne at the time. Their TV special, The Seekers Down Under, scored the biggest TV audience ever with an unheard of rating of 67, and they were announced early in 1968 as the Australians of the Year. Of course, that came shortly before Judith Durham announced that she would be leaving the Seekers and performing or commencing a solo career. Of course, in later years there were some collective performances, but she was largely a solo performer subsequent to that, and her achievements have rightly been recognised over the decades. The Seekers were inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame in 1995. Judith was named Victorian of the Year in 2015 for her services to music and to a range of charities. She and her bandmates were appointed officers of the Order of Australia in 2014. And it is interesting to look at some of the features of her distinctive success. Her voice was very widely praised for its purity. She had significant classical music training. She had a qualification of Associate in Music and Classical Piano from the University of Melbourne Conservatorium. Interesting parallel with more contemporary musicians such as Kate Miller-Heidke, who bring very strong classical music training to extraordinary popular success. The significance of Judith Durham and the Seekers to the growth of our national self-awareness and self-consciousness in the 1960s, I think, cannot be overstated. To have an Australian band with Georgie Girl doing so well globally, I'll Never Find Another You, reaching #1 in the UK, of course, similarly in Australia, was something that Australians at the time took great pride in, and Australians today continue to take pride in. And I think it, while obviously the loss of Judith Durham is a great national loss, the renewed attention it's brought to her extraordinary achievements and those of the Seekers, I think, is noteworthy. The lyrics of I'll Never Find Another You start with, "There's a new world somewhere they call the Promised Land, and I'll be there someday." In politics, it's often said that we campaign in poetry and we govern in prose, but I think those lyrics contain some inspiration for politicians. Can I, on behalf of the Liberal National Coalition, express our celebration of the achievements and life of Judith Durham and our condolences to her friends and family.